Despite a horrid 0-3 start to the season for the Miami Dolphins, the number one silver lining and the biggest thing to come out of the first 3 weeks is how great the Dolphins' second-round pick from 2024, Patrick Paul, has been. It's been absolutely massive for this football team to have a young offensive lineman like Paul step up the way he has. And we're going to talk about it here. I'm Nick Ruloff. This is Dolphins Today. It's really been a revelation. A lot of people, including myself, were very excited for Paul's second season in the NFL because last year he saw a lot of playing time. He actually started 3 games, but it was all in relief for Terron Armstead, who was one of the best offensive linemen in football last season, top 10 graded offensive tackle, but he suffered a lot of different injuries, and Paul had to step in and play, and it was not pretty for Patrick Paul. But throughout the offseason, he got more lean. He had a dominant training camp and looked awesome in all of the preseason outings he had. And all of that has carried over to the regular season, where even though the Dolphins' offense has had some up and down moments against the Colts, Patriots, and Bills, Patrick Paul has been maybe the most consistent player on this Dolphins offense, and it's been awesome to see Miami finally have a left tackle, a young one, that may be the franchise left tackle for years to come. And I want to show some love to the second-year offensive tackle from Houston. So hit that thumbs up icon. Show 52 some love for the Miami Dolphins. But you look at his PFF grades through 3 weeks of the season, 165 snaps. He's played every single one of them. He's certainly had better moments in pass blocking situations than run blocking with that 79.6 pass blocking grade, but graded out very nicely at 69.7. He's only allowed 4 pressures through 3 games, and I think that's a really impressive number when you consider the fact that Miami has thrown the ball significantly more than they've ran the ball due to the game scripts of them falling behind relatively early in the first 2 games of the season. And you look at his PFF numbers there, but you look at how these rank in the entire NFL, he is 20th out of the 59 qualified offensive tackles. Yeah, the run blocking numbers are rough at 46, but he's the 8th highest pass blocker in the NFL at that tackle position. He has committed 0 accepted penalties, so he's number 1 there. And the 4 pressures that we talked about through 3 weeks, yeah, that's the 11th best number in the NFL through 3 games. Like, you could make the argument that Patrick Paul has been the best player on the Miami Dolphins through 3 weeks of the 2025 season. I really think there's only 3 players in consideration here, and 2 of them are on the offensive line. Paul has been great. Aaron Brewer at center has been flat out phenomenal. And then the third player you can consider is Devon Achane. But with Paul being a second-year guy and us needing him to take that step forward in his first year as a starter, it's been massive to see Paul be able to have the success he has had so far. And it's been so impressive to watch because we look at that pressure rate allowed, and only allowing 4 pressures through 3 games. Well, if you factor in the amount of pass blocking snaps, 2 pressures allowed, he has a pass rusher or lowest he has a pass block pressure rate of 3.7%. That is 5th best amongst offensive tackles who have at least played 100 snaps. Actually, technically tied for 4th, only trailing Garett Bolles, Joe Alt, Colton Miller. This is elite company that Patrick Paul is currently in. And I'm not going to sit up here and act like he's the best offensive tackle in football. I'm not going to say he's going to become the best left tackle in football. I am merely here to showcase the advanced numbers and tell you that despite the Dolphins being 0-3, there are some silver linings on this football team, none larger than how well Patrick Paul has played through 3 weeks this year. The blend of athleticism, physicality, tenacity, and size that Patrick Paul has displayed is everything you want in your franchise left tackle. And we said this coming out of college. He needed to work on his footwork, his hand placement, and technique. Learning under Terron Armstead has done wonders from him, and you can tell that. If he gets his hands on you in pass blocking situations, you're done. You are done. He is so large, so strong. If you do not beat him with a quick rip move, a speed rush, or you chop his hands down, and he gets you like this off the rip, you're not beating him. You're not going to be able to get around him. If you get beat on your first move, you're not beating him with your second move. There is no kind of move that you can make to counter Patrick Paul's initial punch if he gets you with it. And I just want to continue to show some of these advanced metrics. Like, I know this is probably going to be an overwhelming chart, but if you could see, he's in the top left here. This is offensive tackles when left on an island. Top right is pressure rate, or success rate, I should say. And then the bottom is number of times you've been left on an island. So you see here, Paul has not been left on an island a lot because he's on the left side of this chart, but he's on the top, which means that his success rate when left on an island is as good as it gets. Like, yeah, you see the elites of the elites, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Joe Alt in that top right, where they just, hey, trust you to be on your own, and they're having a lot of success. Yeah, Paul has had help chipping, but when he's been left on an island, he's had a lot of success. So if I'm Miami, I'm going to let my young guy work on an island a little bit more. And when you are using a chip from a tight end or a running back, you probably should be putting on the right side of the O-line where Larry Borum and Keon Smith is right now. Like, I just merely want to showcase, this is Patrick Paul through 6 career starts. He started 3 games last season against the Titans in Week 4 on Monday Night Football, against the Texans in Week 15, and in the final game of the season, Week 18, against the Cleveland Browns. Or, excuse me, the New York Jets. Those were the 3 starts he had. He played a lot, but he only started 3 games last year. And he's only started, obviously, the first 3 games this year. So considering he's only had 6 starts underneath his belt, and he's putting up these type of numbers, it is just optimistic. It's great stuff, and it should make you happy. And even though all of us are pretty down in the dumps and angry with how the season has gone, and we want changes to be made to the front office, the coaching staff, and the quarterback, we should also be able to celebrate some of these other players that are performing at a very high level, especially the younger guys. And we'll talk a little bit more about Aaron Brewer as well here. But this is why you subscribe, because we got daily free, informative, and entertaining coverage on the Dolphins, whether it's player breakdowns like this, whether it's watch parties on Sundays, news, rumors. We got you all. Sub. And this is really going to get parlayed into a conversation that makes it even more frustrating that Miami is 0-3 at this point, and that Austin Jackson and James Daniels both got hurt in the first game of the season against the Colts and then were placed on IR, forcing them to miss at minimum weeks 2 through 5. Because I truly do believe if this Dolphins offensive line stayed healthy, Daniels doesn't suffer the pec injury, Jackson doesn't keep on re-aggravating the toe injury, this offensive line could actually be really, really good, because Aaron Brewer, your center, has been playing at an elite level. He is, without a question, a top 5 center in football. And I know I have been extremely critical of Jonas Savionaya, but if you had Brewer healthy, which you do, Patrick Paul playing at the level that he is, James Daniels and Austin Jackson really healthy, you could then shift your offensive line to hide Savionaya a little bit so his struggles aren't as apparent, and you could be having, no joke, a top 10 offensive line in football if Jackson and Daniels were able to stay healthy and play more than 4 snaps in Week 1. More coming on Aaron Brewer here in a second, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day. The right decisions on PrizePicks can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. It's so simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you could still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. Double your money, even if one of your picks does not hit. I have an entry in for this upcoming week. Less than Jonnu Smith receiving yards, 29.5. More than Jordan Mason, 79.5 rushing yards. And then pair that up with the max discount, more than half a passing yard for Jalen Hurts in that Buccaneers-Eagles game. Pair that up with any entry you want to boost your lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. As we focus more on Aaron Brewer here, he has just been so awesome to watch. The film stands out. The numbers back it up. Graded out as the 79.4 overall, 91.6 run blocking. Sure, he has struggled in the pass blocking department ever so. 3 pressures allowed. No sacks, though, but the grade isn't very high. When you think about what Aaron Brewer's been able to do since becoming a Dolphin, it's just been so impressive. And it's clear he's a perfect fit for this Mike McDaniel scheme at that center position. And through 3 weeks, he ranks as the second highest graded center in all of the NFL, the number 1 run blocking center. And yeah, the pass blocking numbers aren't great, 24th, 7th best pressures allowed. And he has been penalized 3 times through 3 weeks, which ranks dead last amongst NFL centers. I just want to focus on the positives here because Dolphins fans, you have the second highest grade center in the NFL and the best run blocking center in the NFL. And all of it goes back to his athleticism. That is the number 1 thing that is required in this Mike McDaniel offense on your interior offensive line is the ability to get to the second level quickly on these wide zone run schemes, on these end arounds, getting to the second level, being able to pull after snapping the ball. And I do actually want to give Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier credit here because the 2 centers they've had under Mike McDaniel since he got hired for the 2022 season has been Connor Williams and Aaron Brewer. And Connor Williams was a top 10 center in the NFL the 2 years he was with Miami. And then over the past 2 years, Aaron Brewer has been a top 10 center as well. So they clearly have the ability to identify talent at that center position and who would fit their scheme because Brewer was ranked 6th overall last season, 7th in run blocking, and 4th in pass blocking. He has been a home run signing, and that 3-year, $21 million contract Miami signed him to in free agency before the 2024 season has just been cinema, unbelievable. And I do actually want to look at his contract real briefly here because he is still really young. He's 27.8 years of age. He will be turning 28 years old at the end of October. I think it's October 27th when I looked it up. But he's got an incredibly low cap number this year, $3.8 million. He had a $1.1 million base. And you look at his final year next season, $6.4 million base salary, $9.1 million cap hit, which is still phenomenal that you are going to have a top 10 center, I would argue a top 5 without question, center in the NFL with under a $10 million cap hit. That's just great stuff. But it begs the question, with him being an unrestricted free agent in the 2027 season or offseason, should the Dolphins extend Aaron Brewer? And before I give you my thoughts here, I want to get yours. Should the Dolphins extend Aaron Brewer going into his final year of his contract? Type Y for yes or N for no. So this is one of those situations where I'm thinking with my heart and my head here. My heart says yes because he's been so damn good for the Miami Dolphins over the past year and a half since joining this organization. But my mind also wants to say, let's just wait and see what happens the rest of the year and next January and February. Why? Well, think about it. You're probably going to have a new GM, a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator. Are those same valued principles that Aaron Brewer excels in with Mike McDaniel going to be needed for the future of this franchise with a new offensive scheme and a new head coach? That might not be the case. If you bring in a more gap scheme, power running football type of offense and scheme, well, then you're going to probably look in a different direction at the center position. So yes, on paper, it makes sense to extend Aaron Brewer right now because he's been a top 5 center in football the last 20 weeks of NFL football. But we also got to wait to see who the next man in charge is going to be because he might not be the best scheme fit in that next system. Final word on today's show. The moral of the story is, because I wanted to make a positive video on the couple of the line. If James Daniels returns and stays healthy in week 6, when him and Austin Jackson are eligible to return against the Chargers, you pretty much have your O-line locked up for the next couple of years. And sure, if they bring in a new regime and scheme, you might see trades and releases. But Austin Jackson has another year left on his deal. Aaron Brewer has another year left on his deal. Jonah and Patrick Paul have multiple years left on their rookie contracts. And James Daniels is in year 1 of a 3-year contract Chris Grier signed him to. So these guys are all slated to be back next season. If they could return, Daniels and Jackson, stay healthy for the rest of the season, you could see real continuity grow between this offensive line the rest of the year, which will then only help you kind of transition that into next season when everybody could be back and you could have one of the best offensive lines in football. A little bit of a positive spin on the 0-3 start here today on the episode. And if you did make it through the end of the episode and aren't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please join the channel. We'll be live on Monday night for Week 4 action between Miami and New York. So subscribe, and I hopefully see you there.